Stop doing that, Colin. Why did you do that, Colin? I don't know. You knew it was wrong? Yes. So then why did you do it? I don't know. As if somehow admitting that I didn't know why I did something would give me the answer and clarity as to why I just did it. I would ask myself for years, why do I keep making the same mistakes? And why does it always keep going wrong for me? I did this all through my childhood and even as a soldier and even through most of my adult life. Maybe you can relate to this. By the end of this, I'll be offering you a gift. It will be somewhere in this video, so just keep watching. It just seems like that when we got here, we were expected to know how this game works. We were expected to know that the word no means no, and that we must obey this word at all costs. But we didn't know the rules. Or at least I didn't receive my handbook on life. Did you receive yours? We didn't understand the game because we didn't get the memo with the instructions. Already? Ooh, I like that. Rewind. We didn't understand the game because we didn't get the memo with the instructions. So why do we make so many choices that are not in our favour? Who and what is responsible? Well, to answer that, you need to get your swim gear on because we're about to free dive into the depths of consciousness. Are you ready? Hello, beautiful souls. I hope you are well. I hope you are staying well. Welcome to the unfolding of a brand new age, stepping from unawareness to awareness. Here's a wave of love coming your way. When we are born with only one mind. This mind doesn't know the rules of life, and so as it grows, it must learn the rules of the game all over again. Now I say all over again, and for more information on that, just check out my YouTube video, You Are a Jedi Master, and that will give you much more insight as to what I mean by that. So from 0 to 6 years old, we are taking in as much information as we can. This is known as the subconscious mind. We have no reasoning factor at this age, so we're soaking up everything we experience through what we are taught, what we see, what we taste, touch, hear and smell. The reasons we take on so much information at such a young age is the same as any animal. The species only has a certain amount of time to get going so that it can survive. And we as human beings do this by learning through so many different interactions and experience. Out of the entire animal kingdom, we are the slowest learners out there. It's crazy, right? But that being said, did you notice that when a baby is learning to walk, if it falls over and we think it's a hard fall, they just spring back up and they keep trying. Their motor neurons, which is responsible for your movement, are still developing, and that's why you see them all wobbly and shaky. And you can even see this when they're trying to put things into their mouths for the first time and their heads are wobbling all over the place. This is because they do not know what failure is. They only know what they want and will not stop until they get it. You've seen this so many times, right? When you watch a child, it will be relentless and it will carry on, continue. So when it falls over, boom, it's back up again and it's going. And we go, look at the energy in that child. How can we possibly keep up? This is because babies are still very much tuned in to where they have just come from before they entered into the physical body, into this physical reality. And so we have no clue about the rules of physical life here. We're sent here to play this game without being given the rules to play the game. Ooh, I like that. Rewind. We're sent here to play this game without being given the rules to play the game. If you want more clarity on that, watch my YouTube video, You Are a Jedi Master, to know exactly why this is. So what do we do then if what we have learned doesn't serve us? Well, let's start from the beginning. During the ages of 0 to 6 years old, We are soaking in so much information just like a sponge. Hence why young children are good at learning multiple languages, music and instruments and so on. We do not know what resistance and failure is, let alone what it actually means. Which means babies are still tapped into their infinite potential, the same infinite potential that you still carry with you today. Again, click on my YouTube video, You Are a Jedi Master, for a much more deeper understanding to this. By the time we get to around 6 or 7 years old, we are now wired to go into the world with enough information to survive in the physical world. I call this the 0 to 6 sticks age. Then as we grow, we get to a certain point around about 6 years old and we develop our reasoning factor. As a result, we develop our ability to choose, which in turn will give us answers and even more questions. So when we as children are learning all of these new abilities, we begin to develop and grow in our awareness of our successes, failures, and limitations. Our minds now become two things, the conscious and the subconscious mind. And with it we create a mental filtering system. This is why you hear the saying, I'm in two minds. So when anyone is saying, I'm in two minds, it's because they are experiencing a state known as neurodissonance. And neurodissonance is where both hemispheres of the brain are in conflict, such as making a decision. The subconscious mind already knows what it's going to choose. And you know this when you make a decision and it feels really off, really uncomfortable. By the way, intuition is a different thing altogether, but today we're talking about the subconscious mind. So for example, if you have grown up in a negative environment, you might begin to realize that you don't want to be treated like that anymore and even begin to speak up about it. Or you might think it's normal and that it happens to everyone. Either way, that experience is firmly embedded into the subconscious part of the mind. And if it is not serving us in a positive way, and if we do not know how to shift it, it will stay there and it will define how we live our lives for the rest of our lives. Thus the pattern continues. I call this the organic tape recorder because it's recording all of the information that's needed in order to get you through the rest of your life. This recorded perception of what we see as life is stored into the deeper aspect of the mind, the subconscious mind, where it is much harder to access. A little bit like the operating system on your computer. You can't really get into the nooks and crannies of it, you just get into the basics to make the thing work. But there's a whole system going on behind the scenes that's actually creating the computer to do exactly what you want it to do. Your mind is very much wired in the same way. Again, on a positive note, the subconscious programming can be a good thing. For example, you know if you step over a cliff, you know you're going to fall and possibly die. So the subconscious mind has its benefits where it keeps us safe. But on the negative side, this can create a whole host of problems for us as we navigate our way through life. It can sabotage anything from relationships, career, but the number one thing I feel it affects is our relationship with money. And we call these things blocks or resistances. So once the subconscious mind has what it feels it needs to get through the rest of our lives, and the conscious mind is now in place, nothing can be placed into the subconscious mind to replace the programming without having to go through this filtration system of the mind known as the conscious mind. The problem with this is, unless we know how to work with our conscious mind, almost everything will never make it into that subconscious aspect of the mind, thus we keep getting the same results. We see this in so many areas of life, growing up, and even today when we are consciously aware of what we want to do, something such as going to the gym, and yet we do it for a short while until the novelty wears off and we quit. We didn't really know why we quit, because we actually really wanted to keep going because it made us feel good, we lost weight, we grew muscle, etc. And yet we stopped. Why? Welcome again to the subconscious mind. There was either something within the recording of the subconscious mind which did not match you going to the gym, And so the only outcome was to quit because it wasn't considered as a necessary survival tool for you. By the way, the subconscious mind does not have any intelligence to choose. As Napoleon Hill said from the book Think and Grow Rich, the subconscious mind has no ability to accept or reject an idea. It simply must go by what's impressed upon it the most through repetition of thought. And so it's not actually trying to trip you up and keep you miserable because it doesn't know how to. What it's actually trying to do is keep you safe, but in order to do that effectively, it plays out everything you have learned most before the age of 6 for the necessities of survival. And so yes, most of us are living our lives as 6-year-old children. For example, you've only got to look at the behaviour of some adults to see that. In the UK, for example, do you see how childish, fully grown adults are in the Houses of Parliament? And these people are in charge of running a country. We are better off giving the responsibility to a 6-year-old child because although they behave in the same way and know nothing about money, they also do not know the meaning of manipulation and what war is either. Oh, I like that. Rewind. We are better off giving the responsibility to a 6-year-old child because although they behave in the same way and know nothing about money, they also do not know the meaning of manipulation and what war is either. When we were young, we experienced the next best thing to failure. Not being allowed to have sweets or candy, being told off, not allowed to go out, falling over, cuts and bruises, and so on. All which store as little hidden messages that either tell us the world is dangerous or that we weren't good enough. On the other hand, it can equally store little hidden messages of what love feels like, what fairness feels like, what happiness feels like, and so on. Either way, the mind records that information. On a non-productive aspect, we have a bug in the system. So whenever we attempt to create positive change, the first barrier that we will encounter is that organic tape recorder, the subconscious mind. And then our conscious mind comes into play. Remember, if it's already stored in your mind, it has already pipped you to the post. Pip is a slang word from the 19th century, meaning to defeat or beat an opponent, but adds that the origin was unknown, which is perfect in the case of this because so many people are unaware of why they keep getting pipped to the post, because they are unaware of the hidden, unknown programming running in the background of their own mind, the subconscious mind, the organic tape recorder. Shocks and traumas can access the subconscious mind extremely quickly and change how you relate to something because it is potentially an immediate danger to your survival, to your life. And so shocks and traumas can leave us with mental, emotional, and physical scars and blocks. I have lost count of the number of clients that have come to see me about a physical ailment, and yet when we worked on an emotional or mental experience, the physical aspect cleared up as well. Most people want to experience a miracle, but are not willing to go to the places where they are most likely to happen. Oh, I like that. Rewind. Most people want to experience a miracle, but are not willing to go to the places where they are most likely to happen. Out of the shadows, rising from the ashes springs to mind. The old science says it takes between 30 and 60 days to create a new habit, but the new neuroscience indicates that it's somewhere between 60 and 365 days to create that new habit. Some habits are easier to create and break, whereas others can be extremely difficult. Some habits and subconscious programmings can be impossible to break, such as names of colours, our first language, and even the subtle body language and eye movements that we make when we are lying or even telling the truth. But also because we have found through neuroscience that neurons actually become thicker over time. So this means that when you experience failure for the first time, by the next time and the next time, the neurons responsible for this become thicker and thicker. And the belief becomes so deeply rooted that we convince ourselves that we're going to fail before we even begin. It is now known by science that the subconscious mind is responsible for between 95 and 97% of our day. Now, around 15 years ago, this was thought to be the other way around, where 95 to 97% of the day was spent consciously living and only 3 to 5% was spent on the subconscious. So they would include that to be things like your lungs and your heart beating and the brain function. Brain entrainment programs had been developed for years and science discredited them, saying that everything was false and it was just a money-making scam. So going back in the day, they believed that the brain was hardwired and that everything we learned from that young age was essentially what we needed, and that was all there was to it, and it was fixed and there was no way you could change it. Until science in its own predictable fashion used an electron microscope to actually look at the neurons in the brain, and when they did that they saw the neurons disengaging from one neural pathway and re-engaging, and literally they're like little worms and they kind of disengage and they reroute and rebranch out to create a new belief. Well, when this new science came out with the electron microscope, they realized that the brain was pliable, it was moldable, and so they called it neuroplasticity. And it's just like plasticine. What it means is it was moldable, so that you can change beliefs, you can change certain understandings and certain experiences that you've had from the past, and you can reform them into something new. This just goes to show us that science is never ahead of the game. It is always catching up. Just because you don't have the technology to prove it does not make it any less so. And so through understanding the subconscious mind, we have learned how to hack the system and change the programming from our organic tape recorder. We can create a new set of instructions, but this time a set of instructions that are in our favor. We do this through brain entrainment. Just as much as we exercise the body for external changes, we must innercise the mind for subconscious and neurological changes. I will leave links below for the things that I know work and which I use myself. So, as you can see, the way we think is not always our fault. And I almost forgot. I'm going to offer you the gift I promised you at the beginning. Are you ready? When something isn't going the way that you want it to, and you want to know how to change it, my gift to you is in the next word: awareness. Now that you have awareness that something needs to be changed, that is the key to changing it. And there's a beautiful saying that comes to mind: you cannot escape a prison if you do not know that you're in one. Ooh, I like that. Rewind. You cannot escape a prison if you do not know that you're in one. So once you become aware of what is highly likely to be responsible, there is never an excuse big enough to unlearn what you have just learned today and how to fix it. And ultimately, you will now always know the truth. So, accountability from your past and present situation is only accountable to you, and how you deal with it from this moment forward. This is my gift. This gift might sound like a bit of a curse or like you have been conned just to watch this video, but it is in fact one of the biggest blessings you can ever own. Accountability for yourself and your own thinking. Again, watch my YouTube video called The Power of Words, and that will give a much more fuller explanation. So if you do this and work on shifting whatever is holding you back, it is not only possible that your perspective of life will change, it becomes inevitable and therefore absolute. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe, as it really does help to grow this channel, and I really want to get it out there to share with people. But for now, it's time for me to say, until our paths meet again, keep shining brightly as the beautiful soul that you are. Live with hope, live with faith in yourself, and live with the feeling of happiness always. Lots of love.